Chapter 3. The Resistance of the Mind. I want to start by saying that I don't want you to have any concepts, to be bothered by anything that the mind throws up. It's very important for you not to be bothered by the mind during the whole weekend. I'm not talking to your mind. I'm talking to your consciousness. The mind and consciousness. I want to tell you the difference between the mind and the consciousness so that you understand what is happening in yourself. The mind is a projective thing. It only exists in activity, as thought. When there is no activity of mind, there is consciousness. The closest we get to this is in a dreamless sleep. In deep dreamless sleep, we are at our happiest. We have no need to exist. We get up next morning and think how beautiful it's been, and yet we've been completely and utterly without mental activity. What has happened is that we've been in a state of consciousness. What we are endeavouring to do in meditation and this weekend is to bring consciousness into ourselves while we are awake, to give up this mind which drives us and will not stop thinking and conceptualizing. You are endeavouring to give up this mind that never lets you rest. Whenever you are unhappy, it is the mind that is active. Is that not true? You can't stop the mind thinking when you're unhappy, can you? That mind is projective. Those thoughts are projective. They are projected in consciousness. The mind rises out of consciousness, rises up in activity by reference to the past, and the mind has a wonderful time thinking about everything and being the boss. But really it only rises out of consciousness, and if we can get it to lie down, it returns to become part of consciousness. Then the mind is stilled. No more concepts are necessary. Consciousness is. It doesn't need to know anything. It is an extraordinary thing, but it is the truth. By tomorrow afternoon, we'll be right face up against all the truth that you can stand. The truth is this, that you don't need to understand one single thing I'm saying. All you need to do is to be here, to be yourself, to be empty. For a little while in your life, just to be a human being with no need to work anything out. You don't need to know anything. This is the state of deep dreamless sleep. For 8 hours today and tomorrow, you are giving up your need to know anything. I'm not going to exist. I'm not going to work out how much money I've got, who I love, who I don't love. I'm not going to have the conflict of the mind driving me to say I've got to do this and I've got to compare it with that. You're in deep, dreamless sleep here, and yet you're awake. You're present. Isn't that remarkable? Just be yourself. Just be with me. This is a remarkable state of being. If you would only come into it with me. Just be with me. I am with you absolutely. I have no past. I delight in being with you. I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to defend. All I can do is be myself and be with you. Now that is the challenge of this weekend. Can you stand it? Not to have to work out what I'm saying. Can you give up the mind's incessant need to question? What does that mean? I'll keep saying the same thing over and over for the whole weekend, coming at it from different directions, and you won't have to work anything out. Your being will hear, whether it's true or not. Your being will say, "This is true. This is true." It will give the nod. It doesn't need to work things out. If something's true, is happening, your being is happy, delighted, because you are no longer in the competitive mind, having to compete, having to prove something. You don't have to prove anything here. All you've got to do is to be yourself. This is the end of self-consciousness, the end of trying, the end of wanting. What have we got? All those things that you own and possess and love, they're all props. They're going to let you down when you die. The whole lot of them are going to let you down because you are going to die. When your child dies and your mother and father dies, they've got to look after themselves. They are on their own. You are on your own. That's what you can't stand. Now, that state of death is the same as the state here. You've got to die. Now, with me. For these 2 days I say, can you die? Can you give up all the thoughts, all the past that you've got in you? Just give it up and just be with me. Now what have we got? There's just you and me, naked, really. This is what it's like to die. You haven't got a bank account now, no children, no mother, no father. They are all in the past. The mind would have to think about them. Can you be now, in the present, with another human being who is prepared just to be here? This is meditation. You are in the deepest meditation if you are not thinking, but are with me as I am with you. Every second you stay in this state is worth 5 years of meditation using devices. You are being yourself, just being. There's nothing to work out. Do you notice there is nothing to work out? Give up trying to work everything out and everything's okay. That doesn't mean that the bailiff's not going to knock on your door and say you've got to get out of your house. But that when that happens, you just face the fact. As soon as you get the letter that says you've got to quit, you look and say, what can I do about this? I've got to be out in a week. Don't worry, you'll do something about it. You'll do it without lots of worrying. You'll attack every problem moment to moment. You will look and say, what can I do? And consciousness will throw up some sort of answer, and it will be the best thing you can do at that moment. What can you do? That's the question, not what will I do? What can I do? Attack everything simply. Be simple. There's always something you can do. Or if there's no action you can take, you just wait. And something will happen. Someone will knock on the door, a letter will arrive, someone will run into you, an old friend, and mention some place where they've got accommodation. Stop the feverish activity of the mind that would try to project you into imaginative situations and therefore keep you tense. That tension in your shoulders, in your scalp, everywhere in your body, is caused by the mind trying to project you out of this moment, away from being yourself. Whenever the mind thinks you are gathering tension, whenever the mind thinks you are gathering tension is pain, so you are gathering pain. This weekend we are not gathering pain. Stay here. Stay with me. Do not leave me, and I will not leave thee. You are already transforming your mind, making it quieten down, making it become the consciousness which is still. You will find your life far smoother, far more real, even if, for a while, it becomes turbulent as you switch from one state to the other. You will feel clean. You will be facing things moment to moment, dealing with them in the moment. That's what we're doing here. You are being present. To be present is to be the presence. What is the presence? See if you can follow this. To be without thought is to be now, to be present. What's the problem now? There is no problem, is there? Isn't it extraordinary? There is no problem now. If you think, then there could be a problem, because the mind lives off problems. But if you give up the mind, what is the problem? The mind is the only problem. It's loaded with problems. If you can be present, you can be conscious. In consciousness, there is only the present. In the present, there is never any problem. If a man comes into the room to kill me, there's no problem. I either get up and disarm him, or kill him, or he kills me. There is no problem. Is that not true? The problem comes from the mind trying to work something out, and usually getting it wrong. Can you give up that store of mind that's in you, that's trying at this moment to distract you from me? I'm only another human being. If you are trying to think or work something out, your mind is trying to take you away from me. What I am saying is either true or it's false. You notice you don't have to think about it. You know what I'm saying is either true or false. Consciousness is much swifter than the mind. It doesn't have to think to know whether something is true or false. It's the stupid, lumbering mind that's got to add up and ask, what's 7 times 8? What? I've forgotten. What? It invented it, and now it's forgotten the answer. 7 times 8 is 56. You don't need to know your times table to be yourself. All you need to do is be yourself. But if you should have an externalized problem, and 7 times 8 is important, you'll use the mind to do the sum, but you won't make a problem of it. The mind says, I must be quick, I must be able to do it swiftly. But why must I be able to do it quickly if I can't? Who says so? The mind, because the mind would compete every moment with some other mind and give you tension and self-consciousness, so that you will say to yourself, I'm not as good as this person, or I can't do this, or I don't know that. I say, you know everything that's worth knowing. Now, what more do you want? You don't need to know any more than you know now. Just be yourself. Start there, and you will be amazed how all the other circles of existence start to fall into some sort of place, because you will start to take command of your life instead of your life taking command of you. There's nothing to work out. The mind in its place. I bring you into a meditation intensive to take you beyond the devices of meditation. I'm bringing you right into your deepest self. As I talk like this, we are coming together and forming a beautiful space of stillness. It's like breathing in. Later we will breathe out, and I'll give you some more devices so that when you go away you've got things to do. But this is the most important part, where we breathe in to the deepest level of your being, where you don't need any devices for what we are together. We have formed this beautiful space which you will take in your being wherever you go. And if ever you need stillness, you will only have to pull up this energy and go into it, and you will be still. We are making it. It's yours. It's not the world's. The world belongs to the mind, and we have left the mind out. We've got stillness. We've got love. What we are in now is the state of love. It's an extraordinary love, in which beings are linked by no thought, no competition, just stillness. The stillness of life, the stillness of God. We are all gods who have forgotten ourselves, forgotten our stillness. Now, before we go on with our meditation, would anyone like to ask a question about anything I've said? Yes, what is your name, please? George. Yes, George. I'm wondering about the use of the mind. I'm sure I must use it for solving everyday problems, practical things. I go by past experience in sorting things out. Don't I have to use my mind to deal with worldly problems? Barry? Yes, you have to use the mind to recall facts drawn from past experience and then fit them into the situation. The mind will enjoy trying to work it out. Oh, this one might fit, or that one might, and so on. But the real solutions come up in the consciousness, arise in the stillness. So the answer is, use your mind in the moment to solve the problems of the world that are presented to you, and use it to the best of your ability at that moment. This doesn't deny the mind, it just puts the mind in its place. We have to keep the mind in its place, because the whole world out there worships the mind. The Daily Mirror and the Daily Telegraph worship the mind. They are total projections of the mind. There are no human beings in newspapers. Human beings use the mind to write the newspapers. I worked on them and know what I'm talking about. So the finished product has no love in it, no humanity in it. The people who work on the paper have to address their minds to the situation and produce the goods. If your occupation is too mindful and you don't really enjoy it, it will change for you as you become stiller. You will change it. It's only while we are out of touch with ourselves that we follow completely mindful occupations. The price of change. People frequently say things change for them after they start this meditation. I had a letter the other day from someone who said, I'm worried about my meditation. I've changed. My friends say I'm not the person I used to be. I'm not interested anymore. I'm very worried about this. Well, That's the price of becoming yourself. You see, the whole world out there acts off superficial relationships, which it calls interesting, personality relationships. As you start to become deep, start to give up the mind as the master and become the master of your mind, then the personality changes. It doesn't need to compete. Personality is competitive, and its pleasures are superficial. The superficiality starts to fall away, and so other personalities don't find you interesting. So you start to change your friends. That's alright, because someone is looking for someone like you, who's becoming stiller and deeper. That happens in meditation as you become yourself. Tears. I can see some of you are disturbed by what I'm saying. Sally, are you alright? I just feel like crying. Yes. Could you tell me about it? I just feel I'm going to collapse. Yes. Cry. Collapse. Like that. That's good. I'll tell you what's happening to you. You are dying. You are dying to the old. Just let the tears fall. It's alright. Let them come. Something in you is sad. Sad because it's going to die. I'll tell you all what's happening. Something is happening in Sally. She's giving up some of the old. Something has been exposed to consciousness. She's changing very rapidly now. It's a form of death and she feels sad. And yet it's beautiful because these tears will wash clean. Sally, let it flow. Stay with me. I am with you. It's alright. It's only the past, the old, that is dying. I am with all of you. I am truly within all of you. I am your own self externalized. Your own true self has said it is time for you to hear the truth from an external source, the truth that you already know, but which has not yet arisen to consciousness. This source will bring you closer to a form of death. You will die to the past, to the old, to your problems. That is what I'm here for. I am within you, truly within you, and externalized here as Barry Long, so that for a little while your own self can be reflected back to you. So you see, I'm only an externalization of yourself, your own self, and you are safe with yourself. What's the use of memory? Has anyone got anything to say? If you've got a question, please utter it. Don't hold back on the question. It will be the mind holding you back. Ask it and everyone will gain. Teresa, how can we live without memories? In many meditation books, they say we should not remember. But how can we live without memory? I will tell you, but you've got to examine it in your own experience. Do you need any memory now? No. Good. When you get the breakfast, or when you're with the person you love, do you need any memory? No, but in practical situations at work I need to refer to the past. If you only refer to the past in those practical situations, you probably use your memory for 25 minutes a day. How much have I got in the bank? Or when is my appointment next week? Looking into the past like this is like looking into a diary, and it doesn't take much time. If someone asks you a question, you might very briefly look into your memory, but you respond in the moment and speak from now. Is that true? The mind tries to protect itself by defending the use of memory, where all the past is and where it enjoys living. Okay, use your memory for 25 minutes a day, but that's not much out of 24 hours, is it? If the bailiff is coming to throw you out of your house tomorrow, you don't need your memory, do you? Okay, you might say, who do I know who can help me? But that doesn't take long, does it? Then you get on the phone and you speak. You speak in the moment and not from memory. What can I do? Do you know of any accommodation? You're in the present moment, aren't you? You're not in the past. It's really not very often that we need the memory, but the mind creates the illusion that we can't do without it, because the memory gives us plenty to think about, and the mind deludes us into believing that it's alright to go on thinking all the time. What do we do while we're walking down the street? Think. What do we do when we lie in bed? Think. What do we do all the time with this beautiful consciousness? Think. And what do we think about? The past. And do you know what happens if you let yourself think about the past like that? When the bad times come, you won't be able to stop thinking. So when your lover leaves you, all you do is think about the glorious days you had together. And you can't stop thinking about them, because you didn't stop the mind thinking all those other times before. And it will torture you, as we all know. It is a devilish thing, this mind, when it is the master. But when it is the servant, it's okay. That's what the meditation is about. Giving up this incessant, automatic, mechanical reference to the past. Guru is present. I say to you, stay present, for I am present. I don't want you to remember me. I just want you to stay with the stillness that I am. Be still. Be yourself. Be love. Don't think. That's all I give you. Do you understand what Guru is? You've heard of gurus. I give you the opportunity to understand Guru. I am Guru. I am not a Guru. I am Guru. Now Guru is only one. That is the teacher. That gives you nothing to follow, nothing to remember, nothing to hold on to, except stillness now. And could you separate that from the greatest good, or yourself? Guru does not want followers. Guru does not want to be remembered. A guru might, but not Guru. Guru is yourself. At your highest level of being, you are that which says, I am. And I want nothing from anyone except that they be what I am, which is still, silent, themselves, in love. The truth cannot be remembered. What I've just said is difficult to get hold of, so please question me. What is your name, please? Judy. Would you like to say something? Yes, I find that there's a struggle between my mind and my heart. I'm trying to listen too hard with my mind and it's sort of confusing me somehow. I can't remember what you're saying. Half of me is open, half of me is trying to remember. Yes, that's a good description of the state as you try to get into consciousness. Have the faith to listen without reference to memory, without trying to work something out. Gradually, you will become the greater part of yourself, which can just listen. And you will gradually give up more and more of the mind's need to work everything out. If you need to work it out, ask a question, but you'll be asking out of the past. For what can you ask me that is not of the past? The idea of being together here is for you to run out of questions, so that you've got no past in you, no problems. When you find that you've got no more questions, it means you're right up with the present. You don't need to know anything else. When you go out into the world again and the mind starts to come in, it will have loads of questions. What about this? What about that? Why can't I be still? Oh dear. Why can't I work this out? But when you are yourself, you have no questions. It is only the mind that has the questions. You are truly yourself and can listen and know the truth of what I am saying. But the mind butts in and says, now wait a minute, how does this fit into what someone else said or what was written in some book? It's got to make it fit some pattern in the memory. Well, who cares what someone else said? I find that I want to hold on to what you say because it really strikes home. But then I can't remember it afterwards. That's alright. The fact is that the truth cannot be remembered. I am speaking the truth, which is self-knowledge. It is your self-knowledge, not just mine, exclusively. And we can't remember self-knowledge because you are yourself. You don't have to remember it. But the mind can't get used to that. It's used to taking notes. It likes to take a note down and remember it. You've got to do that if you are taking, say, an accountancy exam, because accountancy was made up by the mind. Anything that you've got to take notes of is something that was made up by the mind. The mind using the memory is so slow and ponderous, whereas if we speak from self-knowledge, our communication is immediate, because really my self-knowledge is your self-knowledge. When the mind relies on acquired knowledge, it's very, very slow. You could say it's like the speed of sound compared to the speed of light. Questioner: why is it frightening? I feel scared of this process. Because it's a form of death. The mind in you has got to die, which means it's got to give up its supremacy over you, and that's very frightening to the mind. The cruelty of the mind. You see, mental activity rises out of the emotions, out of all our hurts and competitiveness and aggressiveness. That thing that's thinking and busy in itself, its powerhouse is our emotions, is our hurts, and the thing we haven't faced in ourselves, our lack of love. That is why the mind is always cruel. Have you noticed how, whenever the mind invents, the people become more exploited? Even the latest medicine that's invented, sooner or later, the drug companies get hold of it. Millions of pounds are made of it, and the people are still starving. Because whatever the mind invents, cuts and hurts and exploits, it can't help it. The drugs might save the privileged few in the West, but even if they're shipped out to Africa or somewhere, the drugs don't reach the starving people who need them, because bribery and corruption along the way. The mind is cruel. The scientist gives his life to invent something wonderful for humanity. Then he invents the atom bomb. It's going to wipe us out. The chemist gets busy to help humanity and invents germ warfare. The mind is a fiendish thing. It's going to kill us, because it comes out of man's discontent and unhappiness with his own life. If it came out of love, what a different world it would be. The dying moment. Now Sally, you are weeping because the past is dying in you, and you feel sad. It's happening in all of you. You are dying to your minds and your emotions. All the people that want to know the truth, they all want the good part, where they're learning and it's interesting and they're having good conversations. But when you get down to where it really starts to grip, where you are now, there's got to be some dying done. It's sad, it's not too comfortable, but it's clean. This is where the growth movement ends and the dying movement starts. It's no good growing anymore. You've got to die. I am a spiritual teacher, and the spiritual teacher introduces the dimension of death. There are many teachers, but not many are spiritual. That is, divinely realized. Only a teacher who is divinely realized has the power to help you die rightly. The growth movement helps to make people more conscious by breaking up their habit patterns, or another teaching will make you express your emotions, make you jump around and become emotional so you can express your emotions. But when you arrive in front of a true spiritual teacher, he says, just sit there and die. But I am with you. We are together. It is yourself that's doing it. You're sad, but it's all right. I am with you. The time has come to face yourself. Chapter 4. Meditating on the body. Now I will take you into meditation again and introduce you and introduce a couple of new exercises. We're going to go around the body with our attention so we can bring more consciousness into it. I shall be talking to you most of the time to keep you present, but you don't have to try to remember a word I say. It's all going to be in you as energy. The mind does not understand energy. It's the energy of my words and my presence that counts, and your presence. The lungs. Just sit up, please. Take a couple of deep breaths. I'll show you. I breathe out. I bend forward a little to push the air right out. Then I breathe in. Now the diaphragm is full. Now you can see, if you watch the stomach, that it inflates as the air goes deep into the lungs. I haven't taken any air into the upper lungs yet, and there's been no apparent movement in my upper chest. So I breathe out again completely. Now take a couple of breaths, please. Why do I say don't use the chest? In our society, everyone's learnt to use the chest to keep plenty of air at the top of the lungs. Only a few singers and actors have learnt to use the diaphragmatic breathing. So in most of us, the lower part of the lungs gets very little exercise or aeration. Anything that is not utilised atrophies. The breath is too important for us to let the lungs atrophy, and we don't want any areas of unconsciousness in our bodies. Wherever there's unconsciousness, there's an area where tension lingers and ignorance hides. In most people's lungs, there is a lot of ignorance, and that will make them think. Whenever your body is infected with ignorance through atrophy or not use, tension or emotion will hide there and give rise to pain or thought. Eventually it invades the muscles and enters the bones as rheumatism. Tension in the body produces acid in the body fluids, which are toxic and seek out weaknesses, places made ready by stress and residual emotion. The reaction that occurs produces calcification, particularly in the joints. The breath is so important. We cannot survive more than, say, 2 minutes without breath. We can survive a few days without water and many days without food. Breath is so close to our being. If there's unconsciousness in our breath, our being is unconscious. So by breathing down deep into the lungs, we are not only taking in the air, but putting our attention down there. So we are becoming more alive and more conscious. The chamber of the chest contains air that feeds the emotional self. This is because modern man only uses the top part of his lungs, and the chest is the seat of the heart, and the deepest emotion in all of us is in the heart. The heart. The heart is a deep emotional ball, red and pulsating with emotion and past. It is the centre of the animal being. The vital animal being is the deepest emotional part of us. Say the species is 2,000 million years old. The heart represents that amount of past. In the beginning, the heart was the point of emotion in the mother protecting her young, in the mate protecting his family. All was in the heart. All was thought from the heart. That's why the heart is said to be the place of courage, because man courageously fought for family, children, mate, their nest and their food, and as man grew, it became my mate, my food, and eventually my country. Everything to be fought for, all possessiveness is represented by this great ball of emotion. The heart had become an organ of me and mine, and therefore of pain. That's why we feel the heart almost stop when we lose something dear to us, or the heart breaks when a lover leaves us, or a relative dies. When we breathe only into the upper chest, we feed the heart, we feed this emotion, our me and mine self. When we start to extend the breathing into the lower part of the lungs, we open up the other hemisphere of being. The true body. Now I'm going to introduce you to some finer energies. These energies are of your true body, behind the flesh and blood. They are already circulating and working beautifully. You are beautiful behind the flesh and blood. Our externalized existence is a sense-perceived world and a sense-perceived body. The task is to connect the sense-perceived body with the beautiful energies of the true body, which is the body you are in when you die. The world has entered us as human beings to such an extent that for most of us the physical body has got further and further removed from our true and beautiful body. Once, at the beginning of time, man was his physical body, was absolutely in touch with his beautiful body, and he shone. He really shone with beauty. Now we are so conditioned that we've become further and further removed from our true bodies, and we are not a very happy looking people. What we're doing in this meditation is to consciously get ourselves back within the externalized body, back towards our beautiful body, so that when we die we are not separate from it, for that beautiful body is magnificently still, and if when we die as individuals we are almost as still, then for us there is no death, there is immortality. That's what meditation is about. The face. Now I'm going to give you an exercise to bring consciousness into the face, and so link up with the fine energies I've been talking about. The face is composed of the finest energies in the body. The face is the flower of the body. I often say that the people in front of me are the flowers in my garden, because I see their faces like flowers in front of me. The face has very fine energies. They spiral up from the lips in circles up to the corners of the eyes, and then up into the centre of the forehead, where I ask you to collect your attention at the beginning of your meditation. Just listen to me and do what I say if you feel it's right. Lift the corners of the lips. Fine energies are spiraling up from the lips. We keep the corners of the lips up to keep them attuned with the upward spiral of the beautiful energies behind the face. You'll notice the lips form a slight smile, and of course when we smile, the corners of our eyes tend to rise a little. Smiling sets in motion this spiraling energy. There's nothing like a smile. A smile is the beginning of love, or the beginning of attraction, and people love to see us smile. There is a smile within, the delight of life itself. When you touch it in meditation, as one day you will, it will make your whole body smile. Now take the tension out of your face. It has accumulated there, year in and year out, so you've become set in the face. So pull back from the tension. Pull back from the lips. Let everything fall down the well into the stomach. It will be looked after down there. Pull the tension out of the mouth, out of the cheeks. Let everything fall away, fall down. Keep easy. Be loose. Notice how the outside corners of the eyes tend to go up just the slightest bit. You see, you're linking up with these beautiful energies. Now pull back from the eyes. Pull your attention back behind the eyeballs. Let all the tension go. Keep the corners of the lips up. Let that tension fall down towards the stomach. Come on. The whole face becomes lighter, easier as the energies spiral up. Now, close your eyes and go back over that again. You'll also become aware of the energies in the nose. The nose is a very energetic point of the face, a very important point. There's a different energy there. Now you're bringing your consciousness into your face. You will make your face more supple. You will feel lighter. Don't worry if after a while your face feels a little bit strange, or sometimes it feels like a mask. That sort of thing happens because wherever consciousness starts to enter unconsciousness, you get some reaction. It helps if you screw your mouth around, screw your face around and loosen it up. It's easier to put consciousness into an area you've exercised. So screw your eyes up, your face up, move it around and go and do the exercise again. You will feel your face starting to come alive. Don't be concentrated, be easy. The mind concentrates. Consciousness allows all things to sweep through it. Be easy. You can feel the tingling in the lips. You can feel the cheekbones tingling. You can feel the slight little flutter of the eyelids. Your lips are up. The corners of your eyes are up. Familiarize yourself with your lovely face. You are beautiful behind that physical face. It might be beautiful now, but it is 10 times or 1,000 times more beautiful behind the projected physical face. Keep doing this exercise and you'll see you can become connected to your own self, which is so beautiful, behind the delusion of your projected body. Chapter 5. To give up confusion and pain. Now Sally, you were disturbed when I last spoke to you. How are you feeling now? How would you describe your state? Sleepy. Sleepy, yes. When one goes through emotion, one gets a weariness, which can become sleepiness. When emotion is released, when we've had an argument or severe emotional strain, we get very tired and sometimes very cold. You are shedding emotion at a deep level. You are changing. Sally, are you still sad? Yes. Are you thinking? No. Do you think you can stay with me? Yes. Stay with me. Do you know what that means? Not sure. Just to be with me. To be with me as a human being, without any reflection on the past. Just to be with me in honesty and presence. Yes. You can only be with me because you have no relationship with me. I'm talking to every one of you, each individual, while I talk to Sally. You can't even be with the person you love most, like you can be with me. You have a relationship with that person. There's a past between you, some sort of memory, and that will deflect you from being together in the present. But with me, you have no memory. I tell you not to remember me. I am the only individual that ever told you, don't remember me. I am present. Don't remember. This is getting rid of relationship. You have relationship with everything else in the world. If I mention Selfridges, you've got relationship because you've been down Oxford Street. You've got some memory of the place. So as soon as Selfridges is mentioned, you will relate to the building or some part of it. I say, you must give up the memory of me, and yet you must be with me. Because if you can stay with me like that, you can stay with yourself. If you remember yourself as somebody, then you are not staying with yourself. You are in relationship with your body. Do you follow me? You've got to be so new and fresh and beautiful that you can be yourself without any reference to your memory or to what you are. And yet, you must not be unconscious like the rest of the world walking down the street. You must be actively conscious. You've got to give up all the pain, all that confusion that you've had. You're not confused anymore. You are very responsible now. From today on, you are extremely responsible. You have been told the truth of yourself. Responsibility comes with knowledge. This is true knowledge, which I give to you, not information, which you can note down in a notebook. True responsibility is true knowledge, and the knowledge is there is nothing to be confused about. So, you can give up your confusion now. Give up the relationship with yourself. You've got to stay with me, which is to stay with yourself. Can you follow me, or are you thinking? You've got to stay with me, which means to stay with yourself, to not be confused, to not try to work anything out. It's the most difficult thing in the world and very painful. The past in you starts to die as you start to be yourself. Then you are what you are, and not what you thought you were. Love yourself. You have to love yourself. To love yourself is not to remember yourself, but to give up your confusion. Give up your old memorable self. It is to give up the idea that you are confused, that you've been hurt. To love yourself is a process. You've got to get the love from somewhere. Love is substantive. It has to come from somewhere. If you have not given up your hurt, that is, if you do not love yourself enough, wherever you love others, you will be loving them from a position of hurt. You will want something from them. You will need their love. We need love because our husband doesn't love us, or our girlfriend doesn't love us, or someone didn't love us, and we've been hurt, and that way since time began. It's what we've always craved for. Love. Now you've got to start loving yourself before you can truly love another being. The way that you do that is to start by understanding that you need love, that you are hurt, that you are lonely, that you are looking for love. That is the hurt in us now. Somewhere we have to find the love to love that hurt with. We need love, but we can't demand it from others. So how is it done? It is done this way. Sit down in a meditative state and name the love that you do have. It might be your mother. She might be very demanding, but somewhere in her you will see, if you look, yes, she loves you. And you go around every bit of love you have. If you haven't got anyone who loves you, well, it might even be the cat or the dog. Yes, it loves me. Yes, the cat loves me. Cats are a bit selective about their love, aren't they? The love of a cat tests us. But the dog is always loving. You have to keep the face light and easy. You can't lapse into concentration and sadness. When you acknowledge love, you've got to be in a state of love. If you can truly look at it, you will see that nature loves you. The bird that sings in the garden loves you. You must name all the love that you have. Then in your meditation, you sit there, having acknowledged the love that you have, and seen that it is far more than you thought you had. And you face up to it. You inform your being that you are loved. I am truly loved. I am loved. You are not one total being. You have an inner emotional self with the need of love. And you have an external self, a personality which projects outwards and tries to love the external world. The thing that reaches us, that reaches into the external world, doesn't know anything about love. And the thing inside that craves love doesn't know anything about the external world. Does not know the brightness of the day, the wonder of the sunset. It has known all your pain since childhood, all your unhappy sexual encounters, all the desperation of trying to find someone who truly loves. The emotional self is all that is painted. Also, it is all that is pained and aching inside of you. It is looking for love. So don't turn from the sunset, from the beauty of nature and the wonder of this life, but actually communicate it to your inner being, which is hurt and needs love. Turn within and say, it is wonderful. Life is beautiful. I tell you, the sunset out here is beautiful, and the flowers are beautiful. You see, the being inside just aches for some sort of communication from you. Acknowledge life. Why do you think everyone's unhappy? Everyone's unhappy because of this dichotomy, because the inner hurt is not informed of the wonder of life. So everyone's got to cover over all that inner hurt, got to have more parties, more personality, more telephone conversations, more excitement, more and more. And don't let it stop, for as soon as it stops, my God, the loneliness, the emptiness, the inner self has been ignored as we fly out into this externalized existence. So what do we do when we come to meditation or to the spiritual life? We start to put a little pause into our lives, and we start to wander in nature, and we want to be in the silence of it all. We inform the being. Life is beautiful. Living is hard sometimes, but life is beautiful. The sunsets are glorious. The flowers are beautiful. The grass that I walk upon and the dew, all is beautiful. And no one can take it from me. And it is life and love. That goes down to your being, which is part of the nature you're loving. So it gets acknowledgement of itself. This acknowledgement is gratefulness to God, is it not? So give your gratitude back to God, to life. Give it back to yourself and heal your hurt. And the inner self will start to share in the life you see around you. I am loved by such wonder and beauty, and so are you. You can add to that love if you name the things that love you. Say, yes, my mother loves me, my father, my daughter. Yes, they're difficult at times, but I am truly loved. I have no need to be lonely. I am loved. And I am amazed at how someone comes up to me or knocks on the door or calls me on the telephone and does some kindly action for me. I am loved on this earth. I am not isolated. I do not need to go looking for love, for I am loved. Then the being gets more settled. There is an integrity to life. You start to get the two hemispheres together. You start to unite yourself. So stay with me, for I talk of love and life. For I am just a reflection of life, like the sunset or the blade of grass, am I? And I would give you nothing but the truth, which is yourself. The myth of life. It is good for you to hear me talk of love and life, for it is your life, it is your love, it is your myth. Over this weekend I shall be talking to you about various aspects of the myth, and I have recorded the Myth of Life tapes. They are available and I've written a book called The Origins of Man and the Universe, which has a subtitle, The Myth That Came to Life. It is good for you to hear the myth because it's your story. It's not something I dreamed up, it's yours. You are the only life that there has ever been on earth. You were here in the beginning, and strangely enough, you will be here in the end. For you are the only life on earth. This is the wonder of the myth of life, to gradually go deeper and stiller into yourself, to that wonderful realization, my God, I am life on earth. I have always been here. My life, this is my earth, and I am always here. It's also the myth of love, of making love, for everyone makes love, and the myth of you, the man and the woman that's always been here. It's the myth of the planet, your planet. You hear the myth, and you resonate to the very depths of yourself, where time began, before you gathered this terrible accumulation of wealth that now makes you confused and appears as your aging body. You did not age, because time was very young. Now time is very old and the body ages, and we are so identified with it that although truly we are immortal, we age and die. So, I tell you the myth of life to revive your knowledge of the truth that this is your life on your planet, for you have always been here. Thank you. It's time we stopped and had a break for lunch.